So more money for worse outcome. It's a sort of a strange thing I stumbled across at some point when I was talking to people. Um, I was talking to some teachers, I was talking to some nurses, separately, individually, and what they wanted was more pay, so more green. Is that the right color of green? I guess so. And they said that they want fair compensation for the work that they do because they are being overworked and their work is very stressful, and they're sort of just generally everything else around it also with the cost of living, everything is going up, and they're not really keeping up with the Kardashians, as they used to say, at some point in the world. So when I was asking them more questions, I was asking them, well, you're overworked. So they do, let's say, 8-hour shifts, but sometimes they get overworked and it goes up to 10. Sometimes it goes up to 12, and they do like crazy time. And this is the nurses. So with the teachers, they have a more strict schedule of work when they go to their classes, but then of course they need to grade exams and everything like that. And sometimes if the class is very big, you start to get sloppy at some point when you're very overworked. So then you get into a situation where, let's say we have a good teacher or a good nurse, and they say, we're being underpaid and overworked. And so then someone says, imaginary situation where someone says, okay, well then let's give you more money. So they increase the pay. And now the nurse goes back to work the next day, and she does 12 hours, and she's very tired, and she does 12 hours the next day, and then she might get 8 hours, but it's she gets like a couple of hours sleep and gets 8 hours, and then she starts saying, actually, we need less work because you can't work more than you can work. There's an average for a human that can how much a human can work, and yes, it shifts, but there's these are outliers over here, and then the majority of people are somewhere around here, and they work good, and the quality of their work is fine, and then they get paid a certain amount. So when I rephrase this question in a way where I said, well, if I would pay you a lot to do 26 hours a day of work, what would you think about it? And of course, it's a stupid question, but it works. It's an extreme form of this other style of work where if you're asked to do 26 hours of labor in a 24-hour day, it's impossible. And then if you ask more money for doing 26 hours, what's the result? The result is going to be that you do sloppy work for 24 hours, and then you get paid more for sloppier work. So we end up in a situation where nobody really gets what they want, because the good nurse is going to be, fuck this shit, I'm out, because they can't do the work, they can't handle the stress, and they can't handle the shifting shifts. In a sense, they can't do it. No matter how much you pay them, they're not going to do it. So who's left? the ones who are going to be left are going to be people who don't mind doing sloppy work for more money, and they're okay with it. So this shifts the entire system to benefit this, so you get less for more money. Now, when I talked to nurses, the nurses started changing their mind pretty much each and every time. And they started saying, I started asking them, well, what if you were given a choice now, after we had, a conversation, of more work and more pay, or less work and the same pay, or less work and a little less pay? Almost all of them said, we want less work, so quality. They want better quality in their private life, and they want better quality in their work life. And they actually wanted better quality for, in general, on the basis that they seem to care about not only themselves, but also the future of everybody. So they would say that, 8 hours a day, and added to this, more menial tasks that are simple. How do you draw simple? Simple is a square. So more menial tasks are given down to someone else who is less trained, less capable, and can be paid much less than a professional nurse. So that way they can focus, in 8 hours they can focus on their dream job, because I would imagine, that's the feeling I got, that most nurses love their job, even though the situation is crazy. So they said 8 hours, same pay. If they were given an option of either a pay increase or better work conditions, they chose same pay, but better work conditions, and not lower work hours than is humanly possible. After 8 hours, you're going to need a break, especially if you're in a crisis and things like that. And of course, you get hourly breaks, but that's what they wanted. Talking to teachers, however, was a different story. So the teachers got very angry and very defensive too, and they refused to really answer the question after this system was given to them, where first I, of course, asked if they agree with it, and then I would try to make sure that I'm not just talking out my butthole, but that there is actual logic behind it. And they started refusing to answer any questions. And then the ones who did, they were very insulting, and they also wanted more pay, and they wanted for the conversation to stop. And that's that. Sample size with teachers was a little bit lower, and not enough to make any type of official conclusions, but I would say that teachers didn't seem to really care about anything involving anyone else except themselves, which was quite alarming. Because I would say if nurses didn't care, it would be extremely alarming, but that's the situation you would get if you would keep pushing them further and further, because then the good ones leave and the bad ones stay. But still, it seemed that there was, I could easily say that not a single nurse who did not ponder the options based on the totality of the situation. The teachers, however, no, they would technically, some of them would laugh at doing the 26 hours, saying that, yeah, we do that anyway. And then they would get very defensive. They refuse to answer anything. And then they would state that they want more money. And then they would, of course, leave the conversation because if they can't really, if they can't really support what they're saying, they leave. And I think it's maybe partly based on that it's like an authority kind of work. So they have the supreme authority and they don't like being mostly wrong. And just a side note, like one of my favorite people ever was my teacher when I was a kid, but also some of the people that I've most, I guess, despised in my youth and life have been teachers. So it's a sort of very 50-50. But I also know teacher like students who have given up because not because of the job wasn't what they thought it was, but that the people at the job were actually so horrible that they didn't want to do it anymore. And I know at least personally of two good teachers who gave up on their dream. So I hope this made sense. The point of this video is not to diss teachers, though I will take this opportunity to diss them, because the more I talk to them, even as an adult, the less I appreciate them. And it is more about the impossibility of the system and how it sort of runs itself into the ground by creating this weird system where I don't know where the more money thing comes from, probably from employees, but and I was also surprised that they would not, or they hadn't really thought about the options. So when I would first ask them questions, they would say more pay, but then after a while they would change their mind. So they hadn't really thought about it. And I guess it makes sense because they're working all the time. So they can't really stop and think about it. It's the job of, I would say, maybe retired nurses and retired teachers to think and fix things, or then have a teacher's some sort of person who is responsible for the not only the teachers but the education system itself. But I hope that made some sense of how why pay increases might not be the greatest idea everywhere, and in some cases a pay increase is exactly what you need. Goodbye.